Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. And I want to talk about sedna's ingress to Gemini and some effects that we're going to have. And I've already began to see with this Mercury on its shade period. So Sedna's story. Sedna was a girl, Inuit. She's an Inuit goddess. She was a girl, Inuit girl, that did not want to marry anyone that was offered to her. And then there are two versions of this, more than two, but around two versions of this story. Some of the versions go to the direction that her father sold her to a man that was also abusive to her. And when she tried to escape, he cut off her fingers. Here, here is soil, but there it lived around water and snow. The other version is that she went with the man who promised her freedom, but unfortunately did not yield, and she tried to escape. Her father tried to save her, but the birds, he was a birdman, and the birds, the ravens, were clawing into the ship that he was sailing to try saving his daughter, and he betrayed his daughter. He saw he cannot save her, so he at least saved himself. Maybe he had other children to care for, and he cut off her finger. She went into the sea, became the goddess of the underworld. This is why we use a comb for Sedna's altar. If you hear me sometimes say Sedna's hair combed, this is a show in reverence. One of the actions which we do is to do so with our fingers, so to comb her hair. And so Sedna is a story about betrayal. It is also a story about desiring for a certain type of honoring and having to stand for a certain type of honoring, which our entire community depends on, but is still not instilled in our culture. It's going to be very relevant for Gemini. For example, this young girl, she wanted to be free in a marriage. And the way that Sedna is used, I was surprised when I heard that people use the Sedna altar to actually find their true love. And I was like, how come? She's associated with betrayal. So very much like a girl is associated with rape and head amputation and not being believed, but is actually protective magically from all these things and assists people to be believed, then Sedna is very much this type of protection and assistance to the people that have been betrayed and to the people that come to bring a type of honoring and respect we have yet seen in our society. Okay? This is Sedna eventually became the goddess of the underworld and the sea creatures. Okay, her amputated fingers became the sea creatures, and Inuit people survived on the life of the sea. They had to give reverence to Sedna. And so there was no place in the community for Sedna because the father was very much afraid that his daughter, this freedom-seeking daughter, will not have food, will not have what she needs. And if he dies and no man takes care of her, in that community, in Inuit community, nobody would take care of her. There would be infanticide for children that you couldn't take care of in this society. And she came to bring a different type. So it's like you couldn't take care of her when she was alive. Now you have to give reverence to Sedna, or you really have, or all of you will have no food. Okay? So in Taurus, we saw it around food. And I ask you to think back to Taurus, okay? And think back to Sedna in Taurus, and think about what we've been through with food, whether food shortages, the salmonella. Okay, we're talking about a couple of decades that Sedna's been in Taurus. I think it's 50 years or so. And we're talking about Sedna to be 4 decades in Gemini. Okay? And so she brings in a certain type of respect, which first we didn't see coming, because it's not that Inuit society was particularly evil or that Sedna's father was evil. He wanted to rescue her. He was concerned about his daughter. Very likely had other daughters that were married, and he knew that he's going to die. But she made it a state, okay? If I am betrayed in this society, you will have no food unless you honor Sedna. She comes to bring an even better type of life where people are even more honored in the sign that she represents. Unfortunately, it begins with something to do with betrayal. It begins with something to do with exposing the many things that are still needed to be corrected in our society. Okay, she's a child. Now let's talk about Gemini. Because Gemini rules children, but it also rules our civil society. It rules cities. It rules technology. Okay, it's ruled by Mercury. It rules trade. It also rules the limbs. Okay, the hands, the ears, but particularly the hands. And so if you think about Mercury, it also is associated with the skin and the nervous system. And the first thing that I saw with Sedna is two very particular, very weird things. One, during, for example, the difference between the Ukraine war and the Israel-Palestine war, the Ukraine-Russia war and Israel-Palestine war, the Ukraine war began with Sedna conjuncting Algol, okay? And we saw the ritual sacrifice and the ritual rapes began in Ukraine, okay? They did not begin in 7th of October. And I'm Israeli, okay? But they did not begin in 7th of October. They happened in Ukraine. Yes? However, in Israel, what was particular, yes, there was the ritual rape, the ritual sacrifice, the children, of course, is very likely also in previous wars, but there were more people that came with amputated limbs out of the war. Yes, more people. I know from the Israeli side, like they talk about the soldiers that went to fight. For sure, it's not just the soldiers. Those who survived, way more amputated limbs in this war than in other wars. Okay, Sedna was ingressing to Gemini, then going back to Taurus. So in 7th of October, Sedna, I believe, was already in Gemini. Okay, way more amputated limbs. And you think about Sedna and the type of respect. What do you think about? What is the respect we have for people who are hard of hearing, who have amputated limbs, who do not have, let's say, their face recognition? Let's say they've been through something that hurts, that changes the face, or they go through limb amputation. Okay, they don't have the ability to have a biometric passport or ID. But also, there are solutions, there are technological solutions for these people. They can have hands, they can have their hearing improved, they can have a total plastic surgery, whether it's for the face. Okay, the technology is existing, but we did not invest all that much in these people. And so when this becomes, unfortunately, industrialized, when many, many people experience this, then the solution comes. This we have to think about with all the planets. Sedna is just this one study case that talks about the way in which it happens in Gemini. And the other thing that I already began to mention is the growing use of biometric and face recognition. So on the one hand, Sedna is very much this technology. Mercury is this technology, Sedna in Gemini. So when you're thinking about cars, when you think about especially flying cars with Jupiter arriving to Gemini, but before that, electric cars. Okay, electricity is very much a Sedna, a Gemini thing. When you think about biometric passports and the biometric IDs or social securities, when you think about the face recognition, and it's not the face recognition when you travel to the airport. Gemini is not necessarily that one. Gemini is where you want to get home, and your home, let's say, you have to have face recognition to get into your own home, or you have to make a purchase in the grocery store, and you have to have your fingerprint and those type of things. But Sedna in Gemini, just as it rules these technologies, it also brings in the problem of amputated limbs, which doesn't allow you to have the skin, Saturn, but also Mercury. Fingerprints, a small picture that is unique, Mercury, because people don't have their fingers. Okay, so this is offering basically a solution to the people that don't have these biometric passes. We will have to find solution for them. We will have to find solution for these people. Okay, and so even when we think of face recognition, but this also talks about the complete change or a transhumanism. I believe the Ectolife, those who've seen the Ectolife, is going to be a part of this. And so Senna, through the betrayal, unfortunately, there is a discovery of new solutions, but also Senna forces us to find solutions. Okay, all these people that survived or they came back from the war, and they don't have biometric anything. Mercury is also ruling law. Okay, so there would be new laws that will have to be more inclusive of these people. And probably there are many people with amputated limbs that are vying for a solution. They could have hands decades ago, but it was not economic to give them these solutions. But also there's so many people who are worried about, what about these biometric things? What about the digital ID? What about the face recognition? What about the deep fakes? What about all the things, the mess that can happen with these things? Yes, well, here is the solution. Okay, many people will simply not have their fingerprints because they don't have their fingers. Now, if we look a bit deeper at this issue, how could we have avoided this? We should have made our technology inclusive decades ago, and we should have dedicated the time for people to have technology inclusive. For example, if you or I want to open a business, okay, and let's say I want to have a person that does sign language on my videos. I have translation for my videos with the use of technologies. I hear people listening to translations in a couple of languages, and I didn't even do it. Okay, why is there no sign language? There could be even a robotic person, even a robotic solution to this. Yes, but I don't have the means, the ability economically to do this currently. Okay, when you grow a business, at first you do one thing, then you do another thing, and it's like you grow a plant. Okay, it takes time to grow, but we should tend to it way more. Also, when it comes to solutions, nervous system oriented solutions as well, nervous system supportive housing as well, inclusive of the people who are amputated in their limbs, okay, inclusive of their ability to do things, their reliance on technology, okay. And sedna, yes, of course, it can be hacking, it can be fraud, but at the essence of it, the sedna is teaching us of the people that we should have been inclusive of. This is also to do with cities. One of the things that I saw this week as sedna ingress was an article about a Bedouin village in the vicinity of where I live. It's becoming a city and there is not enough housing. And the article said that if there will not be solution to the housing crisis of these people as citizens, yes, and have been here, like it's not like the immigrants, or no. If there will not be housing solution, we will have a city that we cannot control. Okay, this is very much Sedna and Gemini. Okay, cities. If you think about our fears from, let's say, 2030, our fears of this, there are these making these cities like ghettos. Okay, you also think about a betrayal that happens. It's both betrayal in the people, but both the betrayal of citizens, unfortunately, in one another, but betrayal of citizens also in their regime. It's like if a person doesn't have housing, why would they be a good citizen, right? And another thing that I saw about this ectolife, and this is something, an insight that I've been having for a while now, and I've actually had it following 7th of October when Saturn was in Gemini, And this is the big understanding that the very children, our fear of transhumanism, they're going to eliminate women, they're going to this, they're going to that. You know, when feminists began to rise, men thought that they are going to be destroyed. They just have better orgasms, better sex life, better overall life quality and quantity in general. They don't. It is less socially accepted for a woman to tie a man into pregnancy, marriage, or relationship. And both men and women had to grow with this. Okay, so the fear of men that they would be excluded for society, no. You know who fights for the rights of men, let's say in divorce? Okay, female lawyers. And sometimes we have other problems with them, but it's like men were afraid of women. It's actually no, they're not only they're not eliminated, but they're given a greater respect. It's just deeper respect that we've had when women were considered property, and men had to take care of someone that is not property as if there was property. And this paradigm had a lot of cons that eventually broke out, and there was a crisis. So now, yes, there would be the possibility to conceive a child without having a womb present there. Okay, you think about all the many times where people are getting into the wombs of women or men, that now we have transgenders, so transgender men have wombs many times. Yes, if they choose to preserve this. We have so many cases where, let's say, if a couple can't bring children and so on and so forth. So the new possibility, okay, that you are not seen just as a walking womb, and the fear of women that they would be discarded from society. Yes, it's one possibility that some people will try to do that. The other possibility, first of all, you're not all people don't depend on you so much that they overpower you. Okay, people don't use you as the walking womb. You're not only you have a respect as a woman, regardless of if you can have children. You have a respect as a woman, regardless if you want to be a parent. And this is the opportunity. The opportunity where somebody is not all that dependent on you, that they feel afraid and overpowered by you, now they can respect you. And this is something I think a lot of women don't see. It doesn't mean that all those other things don't exist. Okay, there are women that want to control men, to rape men. There are all kinds of mindfuckery. After the Me Too, what stories did we begin to hear? The story of Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. All these things happen, but also there are all the when people hurt people, they feel disempowered. The women no longer feel disempowered. Now they don't have to hurt people. You can have respect. Not to mention the right to life, the right to have abortion, not abortion, even the right to have abortion. Abortion is not an easy procedure. And it does not necessarily negate the ability to have children. Okay, those are all very connected to sedna, because what did we have? We had a vaccine that was interfering in both semen count, sperm count, not semen count, semen is like the fluid, sperm count, and the fifth vital sign, which is menstruation. Both of them were interfered. Okay, it's not just women, it's not just men, not just sperm people, not just uterus people, all were interfered. And this was a huge betrayal. Some people were affected, some less affected. Okay, this was a huge betrayal. But also there were many people that could not bring children, and the many people that were used as human farms to bring children. And another concern that people have with this is the concern that the regimes will breed babies for their necessity to enslave humanity. I want to tell you something about this, because what happens when you try to oppress people? After a certain extent, yes, I know there are people who are oppressed, who are in this imprisoning, and do not take this away, do not underestimate this. Okay? But on the other side of those people, there are people who are neurodivergent. There are people who are psychic. There are people who try to understand how they're so sensitive of energy. I see these people around me. Some people, for example, are so sensitive to housing and the energy in the housing. I saw this. I know a person like this, just so sensitive to energy in the house, and had difficulty to find the house. They managed to fund, okay, to work from nothing and even bring in money to buy a house, but they did not find a house everywhere. They felt not good, both in the upbringing house and other houses. And I see this person, they're going through tremendous suffering, but this person is going to make their own housing where they feel sensory, comfortable and sensorily at home. And they're going to create this for themselves. Of course, those things are related with the people who live in conditions that are impossible. It brings in sedna is also those kind of systematic changes. Okay? The way I was treating, I don't know, my toenail fungi, and I received channeling. Some of the channeling was, we remove the band-aid, we remove the plaster, and we remove, another word for band-aid is gaza. In Hebrew, gaza is a form of band-aid, removing the band-aid. And I felt like my entire body was like, I couldn't even express this, what I felt. And I thought it was talking about my welfare, because I had been dealing with neurodivergence, and as I want to outgrow it, to start a business, and dealing with the fear of the economy and so on, of being self-sufficient and so on. But as I was standing to, I had toenail fungi, I was standing to this more and more, and then suddenly the word Gaza broke. And I'm like, I sensed that something is moving, and I don't understand. And so what I say is undecipherable to you. But for the people who have been through sedna transits, okay, who've been through sedna transits, it's beginning to make sense. And those children that are going to be born at this time, to heal themselves, okay, their neurodivergence, their limb issues, nervous system issues, this is going to necessitate to learn about and to find solutions to the world problems that exist, that they didn't even believe that they exist. When I started to tend to satanic ritual abuse, okay, and I didn't even know that the attempt to kidnap me when I was a child at the hospital, I did not even know that this could have been related to this. In some ways, I was shown this when I was in therapy, but I don't know what's energy. But I did not know this. And I saw all kind of things to do with like Satan this, Satan that. I taught one of my students, which I taught English, was growing Satanist, but not Satanist like Lucifer, but more like a Satan as the Saturn that's exalted in Libra, and she was Libra. So it's about justice. She wanted to bring justice to rapists and so on. And that was at the time, it was K-pop fan, and at the time there was a K-pop artist that raped someone, and she was, I think, learning Satanism because she wanted to bring justice to kill such person, or such person to not live. So it's not the Satanism, but we talk about satanic ritual abuse. So it's in 666 all the time, and I didn't make the connection. I thought maybe because of horror that she studies this, but I noticed that I had a problem. I could barely clean my house. I could barely do anything. And I began to advocate for spreading awareness to satanic ritual abuse, the Monarch, the MK Ultra, all these things that I saw from a therapist, from they don't know what's energy. And I'm like, where is it coming from? So I feel from you the energy of the United States. Are you American? He said, no. Where is it coming from? I had no idea. And then when I saw during 7th of October the MK Ultra South written on the walls in Beersheba city, I was like, okay, that's really fucked up. I don't know what it means or why, but it's really fucked up. And what I saw when I started to spread awareness, when I even started to tend to this, I began to be able to clean my garden, to do my dishes. I began to have energy. I began to be vital. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Okay, this is also Sedna in Gemini. Anything to do with children, trading children. So another form of Sedna honoring is spreading awareness to these things. And so yes, we are going to see things are becoming so prevalent that we cannot ignore them scientifically. But we're also going to have the solutions. Okay, people, the more you try to oppress people, nature adapts itself, and science is not different to nature. Scientifically, we're not doing anything that nature does not do. Nature corrects itself. What is the feature of neurodivergent people? They are disobedient. You cannot control them. The more you try, if you try to be violent to them, eventually they become so violent to you that you cannot even. Or something else happens to you. Okay? If you talk about North Korea, and you know, people tell me, oh, but North Korea. First of all, I saw travel videos from people who were in North Korea. And so the things that are happening in North Korea are very associated with the things that are happening to children. And so if you think about North Korea, not as an independent state, but as an experimentation. An experimentation that is funded from somewhere, because the solution, international solution to the problems of North Korea could happen like this. North Korea is not in the P5. There is no problem to militarily invade North Korea. Any country that is not in the P5 in the Security Council can be invaded with very ease. All we have to do is the P5 to agree. But North Korea was both isolated financially and not tended to in terms of security. So why do we blame North Korea for being North Korea? We have, as an international, as a global community, both points of interferences, but both places where we are, the world, something in the world is benefiting from the existence of the types of oppressions that we see in certain states. And people are afraid of a North Korea. Well, in fact, any leader in any country is associated with hidden societies and with elites that fund these countries, that use this leader just as to use expendable children, and will assassinate this leader when they choose to dispose of him. But we are put to fear from this leader, who maybe was expendable child that was put as leader. But the money comes from somewhere, right? Sedna in Gemini is definitely going to be showing us how the minor details gather into something that is way more cosmic. Sedna is the slowest moving asteroid in the system that we work with as astrologers and that we know of currently. We're definitely going to find out way more distant stars, way more things, but to tend to them, to even understand them, not just astrologically, but astronomically, we need to do Sedna first, because Sedna is we need to adjust ourselves to this type of thinking, cosmic thinking. We think of ourselves as a cosmology, as a part of a galaxy, rather than just the world. And how those things are interrelating. The compounds of life on other planets are also very associated with sedna, the microbiome of the cosmos, and how one thing is affected by another thing. Okay, we pay attention to these details. Nanotechnology, very big, very big. Nanotechnology is very big. Okay. Sedna brings in a require for respect that we did not accommodate for so far. And so we will be put in positions where we have to give reverence to Sedna to have life on Earth in some way or another. In Taurus, it was food, it was sexuality and fertility as well. In Sedna, can be continuation because Mercury rules children. Can be civil society, and so the fears of people of transhumanism. What would transhumanism look like is the continuation of humanity, but it's also the correction of humanity. It's both, okay? It's just children. There are children that in a very literal way. When you think about the ectolife womb and stuff like that, there's literally our children. It's the face of our societies. Civil wars and so on and so forth. Here's the continuation of that, but also the correction. Slavery was abolished, or at least partially abolished in the United States as a result of growing conflicts in the Civil War. And somebody having a black lover. It all never hurts. Make love, not war. But white people were also enslaved with black people. And very much many things we associate with white people originated on Chrome. Okay? So when you think about eugenics, I saw many people blame the Jews for eugenics. And now it's very good to criticize the Jews for eugenics. There is the Jews of the muscles. There are all kinds of ideologies we don't want around, not in Israel, not in Zionist society, not in Judaism, in general. They're really not proving to be good. And they were really a part of the type of ideologies Hitler was inspired by Churchill. Okay? So it doesn't matter who started this, we don't want this. But eugenics was not originated in Abrahamic religion. Okay, social concept, Gemini, was not originated in Abrahamic religion. Eugenics is as old as Inuits. Inuits made infanticides to children that they could not take care of. This is the origin of eugenics. Tribal societies, okay, were marrying in amongst the tribe. Also, after we saw, for example, Chernobyl, we see that in nature, mutants, okay, in the beginning, first of all, they have sexual polarity. Sexual polarity increases after sexual disasters. Sexual disasters, I mean, also after disasters like an A-bomb. Okay, so in nature, sexual polarity increases. But you also have mutants, and mutants, how do mutants grow? First incestually, and this is making it difficult for mutants to survive because you need biodiversity to survive. This is why new mutants are not surviving so quickly, and they have to adapt. They have to mate with something that is not them. And in the beginning, it's very difficult because they mate incestually. And this is the generation. Okay, so biodiversity is very good for our immune system. Anybody that breeds anything, let's say dogs or I don't know what, they know this. You have to have some biodiversity. Let's say you want a golden or you want, I don't know, a Labrador, but you have to mix them. You have to have some sort of biodiversity. And we know that purebred animals, they suffer more from neurodegenerative diseases and diseases of the spinal cord. We know this, okay? It's not healthy for our animals to be purebred. Not healthy. This is true. And so eugenics has nothing to do, it is before, it's just the problem that Abrahamic religions did not abolish eugenics. This is something to criticize Abrahamic religions for. Sedna is not going to allow us to stay in a superficial state. Because she's moving so slowly, she asks us to go as deep as the galaxies. And this is a completely different pattern of thinking. It also, in a roundabout way, removes our fear from technology. Because yes, you could be, if you have to have face recognition or digital ID, and it's so easy to take your ID, to take this, to take that. Yes, it's true, but then we also have the wars, and then people coming from the war with amputated limbs, they don't have fingerprints. And their faces sometimes not the same. Also, if you think about the neurodegenerative disease, your signature is not the same. When I was doing channeling experiment, my signature, even to my bank account, I had my banker telling me, yes, but please sign like you usually, I will accept this, but please sign like you usually sign. And I said, okay, and I moved on. And I was like, this is exactly what happens to neurodegenerative diseases. Your nervous system is not the same. Your handwriting changes. I have, what you think about my voice, so voice recognition, fortunately we are going to be past that, but voice recognition would not work with me. I have a different voice, different accent, and different tonality all the time. It's a feature, okay, it's not a bug, it's a feature, because when I think about something, I'm receptive, and I receive a lot of things through that. Okay, I don't penetrate other people, it's just allowing myself to receive, and it's natural, it's not volitional. However, those things that we are so afraid about, the very result of these technologies, which is neurodegenerative, neurodivergent people, the very result of these things, they tend to correct themselves. Just like in psychiatry, we had, now it's getting better, but we had the problem with, at first SSRIs, but then antipsychotics, they would increase the problem. They would work like a holistic medicine. It took me a lot of time to understand it, but they work like holistic medicine. What do I mean by that? Let's say the person is depressed, they will make the problem bigger. Why? Because this person is not necessarily depressed. This person might not necessarily have like a brain problem, but they have a life problem. Maybe they don't have housing. Maybe they don't have relationship. Maybe they're not included in society. Maybe there's an aspect of themselves that they can't be who they are. And so when it's chronic, or that they were hurt by someone and they cannot talk about this, or they go into psychic attack and they cannot talk about this, okay, those things, when they're chronical, then you give them a pill. What does the pill do? It increases the problem. So maybe they kill themselves. Well, they can be violent, because those pills, the body would try to take these toxins out, and then people would get violent. And so the fear was that the person is imprisoned by these pills that don't allow them to speak correctly, to express themselves, to move correctly, but then the body will take, like a person who's about to die, it will take such a leap. Either they would stop the pills, and sometimes it would take a couple of times, because everybody tries to convince them that they will die, and they convince the family. So the family begins to hunt the person that they don't have. Everything is increasing. It's tremendous betrayal, it's tremendous torture, by the way. But those things are increasing the problem so much so that people will kill. If they cannot even suicide, they will kill. They will be violent. They will take the last chance of life. They would bring actions so radical. Okay? And this is like all their greatest fears. They face them, and now it's becoming a power. Or the crossover, for example, in 2007, there was a Dutch person. Then she was on, I don't know if it was antipsychotic back then, but some psychiatric drugs. And then she went missing, and the body was found. They found her body. They don't know if she was killing herself or did she, or was she murdered. And it was addressed by someone who was doing solving of cold cases, of murder cases. Yes, but you can see it in the Peter de Vries Foundation. I posted it on Twitter. And then the police could not get the report of whether she was using drugs or not using drugs. Medical welfare. We don't know. We don't know if she was using drugs or not using drugs, because maybe she was doing self-murder, she was committing an act of suicide, because the pills would increase the problem that she originally suffered from. Holistic medicine, we don't do anything without addressing the changes in your life. This is also why I've not been receiving patients for about 2-3 years. Because I understand that people who come to me, if I give them oil, they will have to transform their lives. I need for them to be willing to do this because the times are changing so much so that the changes are so extreme. Yes, oils can support you, but you will have to do. When I was beginning to use oils very strongly, I was going through 6 months intensive channeling experiment, and I was in between houses, and I was addressing so many things. It was eclipsed for me, it was protected for me, but I understood that this is not about, and you cannot blame the patient, societal change is needed. Then into this, so yes, if I see correct, yes, some people will receive oils as even donation, but you cannot do this without understanding that there's a social change needed. It's not just the person need to change their choices, the society need to. A person changing their choices is a point of interferences, and then it causes, it brings in a societal crisis. Sometimes, not always, sometimes it's harmonious societal change. You change things in yourself, and you see changes in society. It's true. But this is also why I'm not fearing science, because now we see science correcting itself. So how do we change? The way we make a change, become more inclusive. Sedna brings in a type of respect that we haven't been demanding, but we need to demand. And we were not able to demand this in this country, or in this society, or in this family, or in this home. And then if it is so, some crisis happens where we must demand this respect. Not disrespect, this type of respect. For example, I was living in a different apartment. I was living in a one-room apartment when I was a student, and I said it was very close to university. I said, what do I need more than that? In Netherlands, I'm half Israeli, half Dutch. In Netherlands, I would never get even this big a house. One room is huge. I have shower, I have my own bathroom, I have my own little kitchen. Oh my God, this is so good. And I pay almost like between a room and an apartment. It was so good. Excellent. But it was time for me to grow, to maybe add another room, to maybe this, to maybe that. And I wasn't looking at this, I wasn't thinking about this. It was also in a city, by the way. And a crisis happened in my life. That included the neighbor, okay, the person that I was sharing this apartment with and was my best friend for 10 years. I had to flee from there. And I said, I'm not going to just take another apartment. I understand that I need to tend to this. I understand I have a business that I want to do. I don't want to succumb to the pressures of society. I want to find a third option. Okay, not just be put in ultimatums of take the first housing, but also not to be a burden on the people that I reside with. So I made every step, including being in the street. And I said, well, make the street safe because it's a real estate. I mean, if the street is not safe, then eventually houses are not safe. So make the street safe. I didn't ask for the police to give me housing. I said, make the street safe. I need to think about my house. I need to think what I want, not to be succumbed to pressure. What if I was traveling? I should be safe too. I should have the facilities. I should have everything should be safe for me. And for everyone, okay, I was requiring deep, deep respect. Eventually, I got a house, okay, on the hill, in a place where it's not too far from the Dead Sea. A house that if somebody told me you will be living in such an area, in such a house, in such a pricing, I would tell them how, okay? Like is attended to it. I demanded respect to such a degree. It was beyond my devastation, even. I was demanding this respect. Not disrespect, I was demanding this type of respect, demanding. You see me, oh, if I'm on the street or this or that, no, you're not going to disrespect me. No, I'm not going to succumb to your pricing, to your requirements, to your, I don't know, make the street safe. The weather is okay, make the street safe, make the street hospitable. Some people travel, some people find themselves without, this is also how it happened to me. I was supposed to be dog sitter, and then they canceled. So I was left one night with nothing. Just like it cannot be that if I don't have accommodation, I currently cannot afford accommodation anywhere. It cannot be that I don't have a safe place to be. Independently. It cannot be. And I tried in 2 countries. So one country had better accommodation. That was also showing me other things that were happening there. And this is Sedna. Sedna was with a goal. So it's demanding to be respected as a woman. Now Sedna is actually in my 4th house, okay, where I live. But this is also for many people, okay, Sedna ruling the cities, and Sedna ruling now is going to rule the cities by the merit of Gemini. Sedna Mercury rules anything technological, okay? Many people will be forced into situations where they have to demand respect because you understand this cannot be continued. This cannot be continued. You will not be disrespected in this way. For some of you, you're going to actually notice that you are respected even when you don't have. That people are helping you even when you don't have. People respect you even when you don't have. Some of you, you will see this too. It's not just the betrayal experiments, but also the situations where, let's say you are in a crisis and you do get, whether it's the technology or the access or the things that you need. Sedna is also that. Okay, so this Sedna reverence in Gemini, it's a different type of reverence than in Taurus. In Taurus, we had to give reverence to the voice, to fertility, to our food, and to the living conditions of our livestock as well, okay? To the livelihood of both farmers, but also the people who are working for them. We cannot address the farmers and the lands of the farmers without addressing sex trafficking in agriculture. Sedna is about anything industrialized. We cannot, I see it in the buses, and it's actually exciting, okay? The buses do not operate well. It's been an issue. They do not operate well. Certain electric cars do not pass the test where you have to crash the car to see that it was withstanding in what conditions does the car crash. Okay, some electric cars, yes, do not pass this test today. So we think about child labor. We're going to have a lot of technology collapsing due to this. The first things that happened with Mercury on its shade period, but also the first thing that happened this week as Sedna ingressed, there was a power cut. And I'm like, oh, wow. There was a power cut everywhere. I was walking around, there was a power cut. Okay, for the electricity. This is both Algol thing, but this is also Sedna. We have to think about our energy. We're also going to find out more things that we didn't know about the type of energy that we use. Just today I saw that wind turbines, as beautiful as they look, and I say, I'm half Dutch, what would the country look like without the wind turbines, right? But wind turbines, they cast away the birds. So, that was something I didn't think of. It seems environmentally okay, but it's not. Also, our planes create these problems. So we'll have to come with solutions, or we'll have to think about new types of energy. What type of energy? The type of energy that is causing pollution to the sea? Sedna, she will make a power cut to the whole city, to hospitals, to anything. If you don't honor sea life, you can hunt, you can eat what you need, you can eat, of course. But if you're over-polluting, she's going to balance that. And definitely we will see that our lives are as good as any other life. Okay, so we all have to tend to this. Even in intention, ask for the solutions, and the solution will arrive to you. Okay, Gemini is a quick sign, is an earth sign. It's a quick sign. It's a fuck around and find out sign because it's playful, but it's also where you tend to it and solutions come in. Mercury is very quick moving, so we will see very quick technological advancements, very big problems, but also very quick solutions. Things are resolved very quickly, like this. Okay, whereas Taurus was a fixed earth sign, it took time. Venus is not this slow, but Taurus was for fixed earth. Okay, so it took a crisis sometimes to do this. With Gemini, not necessarily. It's an air sign. It's Mercury ruled. And you'd look at things from various points of view. We're going to grow more cunning and to grow more better at innovation as well. One fixed star that is associated with tropical Gemini is Aldebaran, at 10 degrees tropical Gemini. And this is associated with being materially victorious, but you have to be cautious because it can be at any price. And Sedna is not going to let it be victorious at any price. Okay, Israel must be very cautious of this Sedna. And upon the ingress, all the things that Israel has been trying to swipe under the rug, okay, worldwide networks of child trafficking that Israel has been partaking in, as other countries have, castration of Ethiopian women, and psychiatric, the psychiatric pills are chemical castration too, and they given forcefully to people as well. Okay, and it's not just Israel, but it happened in Israel. Soldiers with amputated limbs at the country that is making the most money from technology, the startup nation. For Israel right now, If you want to make an ID or passport, you can do it digitally, but you have to have your fingerprint. What about all the soldiers that came back without the limbs? Okay, Israel is the first. It has a Mercury on Aldebaran. As Sedna ingressed, okay, very soon after we had 7th of October, and then Israel was, anything that Israel has to tend to was exposed. Everything was swept under the rug was exposed. Everything that was swept under the rug was exposed. Good. Now it has to tend to it. It has to find a solution. It has to correct itself so it can be victorious. Over what? Over land and technology. 2030 was exposed. And 7th of October, what did you hear me say? I said, we are Maui. I was talking to Lada. I said, we are Maui. We are Maui. On the 7th of October, where they expected us to think, oh, and the entire population, where have they been for 8 hours? I said, this is not a war if Israel or is Israeli involved. There's something else involved here in the state of Israel. Like this. And no matter what, from which point they try to make you look like a traitor, no. Let's talk about the working conditions of intelligence in Israel. That they choose them with a psychological diagnosis that do not suffer from anything. They choose them for particular psychological crisis that they went through, and they say does not suffer from anything. Then when these people become drunk, when these people become comatose, okay, when these people are forced to do things and see things in their jobs that they have no working conditions, they've been thrown in jail. Vanunu was in jail for 18 years. He was an intelligence person. Okay, why? Because he wanted the nucleification. Okay, so he exposed secrets about nuclear project because he wanted the nucleification. If our intelligence is serving our country, why do we dispose of these people when they become cuckoo from what they see at work? Why do soldiers to disobey legal order are sent into forced hospitalization? Or to the Hague? Okay, immediately Israel has Mercury on Aldebaran. So anybody that comes externally, first of all, everything that was swept under the rug that is to do with children technology, trade, law, okay, the International Court of Law. Sedna. All of these things. But also, there is the victorious, okay? For when you do tend to these things, there is also the victorious. With Sedna, sometimes it's not just the betrayal, it's like what you thought that would betray you is actually not necessarily so, because it's when you bring in this that type of respect, then there is a new type of respect that is out there. There's people standing up for our intelligence people. They're not to be thrown into jails and be called spies and be called this because the working conditions put them to such stress. And that they were at first diagnosed, they said there's no problem psychologically. You have to say it. They have to be psychologically competent to get these jobs. Our technology, the Iron Dome, became a laser technology that Finland bought from us. Who used this type of technology, this patent? Who used this in Maui? Who used this in Nova? It's not our country, okay? But our country has to tend to this because it cannot swipe it under the rug. Israel is the first country that deals with that. We saw immediately the crisis to do this worldwide crisis, that everything that was swiped under the rug, Israel has to disown those type of betrayal, or it will not be as a country. How much will Israel take in the name of global elites and disown of its sovereignty, disown of its people, disown of its leaders, disown of its army, disown of its intelligence, disown of its startup nations, disown of everything that's been known for? How much will Israel allow itself to betray itself before it demands respect? This is happening mundanely. Other Gemini associated countries that have Rao and Ketu and Gemini are countries like Belgium, if I'm not mistaken, Canada, but I'm not sure. If I'm not mistaken, Canada, but I'm not sure. Mundanely, it means that all the things to do with child trade, with kidnapping for organ trade in children. I saw Ronald Bernard speaking about this as Sedna was ingressing into Gemini, from Taurus to Gemini. Banking, Taurus, trade, Gemini, Mercury, in the organs of children. And you don't even have to sign with blood to be decision maker about money laundering or the way money processing of businesses, as he said. Okay, he's a whistleblower. He has to use the correct term for this to be able to give the information. You don't even have to. So what do you sign with blood? Genocide. Very likely. Maybe not even this. We don't know. Maybe democide. We don't know. You have to participate in the democide. Maybe show genocide to. Those type of things are very much addressed, and Sedna will make it impossible not to address them. Impossible. She puts us in situations where we demand respect. We demand a type of respect that we didn't think is possible in our society, but our society has to accommodate for. This is why she takes 4 decades. If we want to open up to other planets, to other galaxies, we need to accommodate. We need to accommodate for this. Another thing that was exposed on the move from Sedna to Taurus, from Taurus into Gemini, Genghis Khan. He was consulting with all the religious leaders of the people that he conquered. He was taking in their advices. So the policies of Genghis Khan, they are the policies of the religious leaders and spiritual gurus of each society that Genghis Khan conquered. Okay, this is societal wars, cultural wars. It's very much Gemini. Informations are being put. Okay, Adolf Hitler was affected by Churchill. He was inspired by Churchill. To all you leaders that admire Churchill, okay, you want to be like Churchill? Well, maybe because you were told that, you know, Churchill was better than Hitler. We would prefer a person who likes, I don't know, drugs and women to a person that likes animals but killed his dog before he killed himself. And all these things. Hitler was inspired by Churchill. Churchill killed way more people than Hitler in no less cruel ways. They were just a darker shade of chrome. And I say it as a third world Holocaust survivor, third generation Holocaust survivor. This is true. And it's also true that the Jews are marketed that the suffering of the Holocaust is unique suffering. Every suffering is unique. Sedna Gemini, she doesn't let you go through this. She doesn't let you go through this. You have to deal with the things she's been swiping under. You have to demand the respect that is even more fundamental. Just like Sedna herself, she didn't find the man that she wanted to marry. In her society, she would not have anybody to take care of her. Her hands were cut off. She couldn't even take care of herself. But when she died, you had to give reverence to Sedna, or you would not have food. Your entire society would be destroyed if you don't give reverence to Sedna even after they're dead. And so the Inuit worshipped Sedna as a deity and gave the reverence. What does it teach us? We have to be inclusive. Many people died. We have to be inclusive of them and give reverence for them, and to change and to be inclusive, more inclusive. If you don't believe that there's such thing as psychic abuse of children, organ trade in children, okay, it's not going to help you that you don't believe to that. You have to tend to that before this becomes your children. This is Sedna in Gemini. It's very, very powerful, and it offers the solutions as well. But this is also why you would see things manifest in the world. They're like, why so many people with amputated limbs? Where have you been as society accommodating for people with disabilities, with physical disabilities and amputated limbs? Why so many identity theft? Where have you been? What about all the people that cannot have access to digital accountants? They cannot have access. Somebody's, I don't know, some neighbor said that they did something, that they did that. Now they cannot have any trade platform. In Netherlands, there are dead cases of people that one of the premises is that they were killed because of their documents. Maybe their organs too, but if the body was found because of their documents. With technology, you need what? The fingerprints. Face recognition, you need the face, right? We must find these solutions. We must be more inclusive. So Sedna is also trining Pluto, that is exposing all of this and is assisting us. The philosophy of science, scientific revolution, everything becoming global. Okay, your social construct is as a global problem. Everything. The BRICS trade. Okay, we could say, oh my God, the labor conditions in China are so horrible. Who did China manufacture for? Now China becoming the owner of the means of production because it is communist. So first it was manufacturing for the whole world. Now it's becoming the owner of the manufacturing, the means of production. The manufacturer is becoming ruling the world because it's communist. In communism, you need the corporation that is the country, this is the pitfall, to be owner of the means of production. But if you block every teaching of communism, then people don't understand communism, they don't understand China. It doesn't work like capitalism. It's a different line of thinking. To tend to the pros and cons of that, you have to think with communist reasoning. If capitalism was so superior to communism, China would not own the world right now. Right now, yes, it does. It manufactures for everybody and then it owns the means of production. ASML, Netherlands, is in risk because China begins to own the means of production. ASML is producing the chips, the miniature, the nano chips in all our technologies, not just the vaccines and stuff, in all our technologies. When China becomes the owner of the means of production, it will not use ASML. And the West will not have money to withstand this. And it will do so because it is communist in ideology. The ideology of communism is to become the owner of the means of production. Sedna Gemini trines Pluto and Aquarius, a global implication for the way that we have been betraying children worldwide. This cell phone was probably manufactured by children in China. Okay? It's the West that outsourced the labor to other countries because it was okay with exploitation and okay with slavery being elsewhere. And then, of course, those companies would want to own the means of production, even if to pay the children more. What if China actually wants to pay these children more? And for these children to have better life quality, it needs to own the means of production to do so. Okay, even in the most naive way, I always like to use the naive argument. Okay, philosophically, to use the naive argument. The naive argument is where if all the world was roses, okay, where is the problem? You tend to this problem, everything that is a gaslighting on this naive is falling apart like a ton of bricks. This is also what we will experience. Okay, this one is very much aided by Pluto, but this is also part of what we will see. When it comes to betrayal, in many cases, in Venus sign, it was relations. Okay? You would have people betraying themselves, and then they would experience betrayal in their relationships. While they were not addressing the true nature of their desires, and then there was, betrayal between the sisterhood, and so on and so forth. In Gemini, those betrayals that are to do with children, that are to do with trade, very important to bring children willingly, consensually. We were supposed to go through this in Taurus. If we did not, we definitely will see the implications in Gemini. What we actually want is so relevant to the experiences of supposed betrayal or of betrayal. Okay, so and this brings a more authentic type of respect. The story of Sedna actually wanted to be free in her marriage or in a relationship. She did want a man, but she wanted a man that she's respected with and is free with. It was not possible in that society, so what happened to Sedna was that the entire society had to worship Sedna to eat, to cover for this betrayal. Entire society had to worship Sedna. What do we know Inuit for? Another cultural feature, they do throat singing, which is healing of sex chakra, sexuality, sexual boundary violation. They bring in us the medicine as well, not just a problem. So this was getting very long. I hope that you understand. Now I need to comb my hair. I talked about Sedna's hair combed. So yes, I'm having a weird hair day. Yes. But this is also a feature of this. So if you want to do honoring to Sedna or have an altar to Sedna, you can use a comb. It's good to give reverence on Mondays. Right now she's in Gemini, so on a Wednesday morning or Saturday evening would be appropriate because she's in Gemini. Mondays are also appropriate. Ruling the seas, okay, ocean lives, the sea. Nurturing, yes. And so some people use fish symbolism or to bring these oysters or to bring this type of shellfish where you put next to your ear and you can hear the sound of the ocean or ocean waves. That could be appropriate, of course, ethically sourced. It's needless to say with sedna, okay? Now, very likely even your comp is not going to be ethically sourced, but you will be tending to it. You can set intentions to do that. People do tend to sedna when it comes to finding a love that is true to them, okay, the love that they feel free with, can be very useful. I found a sedna ingress into my relationship ruler. The Mercury ruled houses, I received a lot of things to do with that. It really surprised me. So that can be appropriate when it comes to charity. So sedna in Gemini is helping people who do not have access to the current technology is appropriate, raising awareness about child trade for organs, kidnapping of children, ritual abuse, not just ritual abuse, not just these things, but those things, raising awareness, tended that, very appropriate, especially if you feel like lethargic or your nervous system can't comprehend something, you tend to that, you see, start making movement, neurodegenerative. This one is tricky because we want not just the technology that is assisting these people, but also the environment. I want you to think in terms of waves and frequencies. So nervous system supportive, houses transportation, not by giving people just pills and not just by technology. I will tell you a story that happened in Israel. There was a woman who was murdered by a cop a couple of years ago. Her sister founded an organization that innovates technological solutions that could save women from being murdered by their husbands. Okay, I tried to do a patent of assassination protection using wave frequency, and I said I must have this patent on my name because I want everybody to be able to use it, and only when it is written on my name globally can I allow for this. Otherwise, it can be manufactured, it can be used for warfare, and I don't want this. But also it can be not manufactured and be listed as a patent, not on my name, and I will not be able to produce without intensive or completely other idea. Okay, and so they were not able to do this. They were not able to do this, and they ask if I want to give the idea and give up my rights. Again, the problem is not that people will enjoy it and I will not receive money, because I will receive safety. But the problem is that they might use it for welfare, and if my rights are not secured in that, it means that they cannot do what they wanted with this patent, which would risk my life, by the way. I could be assassinated if I did that, but this patent is to do with assassination prevention. And in general, technology on the waves that fit us. Okay, there are waves and frequencies that are good for our nervous system, and waves and frequencies that are not. And now technology is more wave-based, more and more wave-based. So we must make sure as humanity that these waves are compatible with the healthy nervous system. Don't worry, nature will adapt itself. People will become neurodivergent and disobedient, but we don't have to go through this. Okay, so this is in essence what I was talking about, with more things. Then I'm talking about assassination prevention in general. So whether it is people who disobey the legal order, people who are whistleblowers, people who are leaders and whistleblowers, there is such a thing apparently, and people who are escaping domestic violence. Okay, so because the way that these people are assassinated is very, very much similar, unfortunately. Oh, it's not unfortunately, it's very much similar, so it allows us to act in unison. Okay, so the issues here was again that I had to demand respect. Okay, I had to demand respect for the patent, otherwise I would put all these people at risk, and I would not help humanity if I'm not respected. Okay. But there was another thing, even deeper, and that is that most women who escape violence, and very much likely most men whose women want to divorce, or that they're in a crisis and they want to walk or take a retreat out of the house to de-escalate the aggression that they could have. Okay, they need a place to retreat to themselves. Yes, what happens is that there is a housing crisis. And so most of these people don't leave these toxic relationships because even the very basic conditions to do so, which is separate housing that is safe for them, doesn't exist. Okay, so when we think about technology, Sedna is not going to let us go. Technology is not a band-aid. And Sedna will betray our technology more and more and more until we understand that technology is enhancing our respect, not betraying ourselves. Technology is not means to betray ourselves, neither is medicine. It means to enhance the respect. This is how you use it. Okay, and I will tell you a little bit of the story for me and amphetamines. Okay, I was not Adolf Hitler in any way, shape, or form, but I was taking amphetamines as well. And the reason I was taking them, because it became more and more difficult for me to concentrate, and after the before the Me Too, I think even, but after Me Too it became worse. And I was taking them to do my work in academia. But after a certain crisis, and I wanted to change them, and I was learning about essential oils, and we slowly moved to essential oils. As I was taking them to just be able to concentrate, I began to process my traumas. And so my intention as I was taking a pill was to heal holistically. Yes, this is why I could take the amphetamines and quit the amphetamines. They have a price. They have a price on your sleep, on your magnesium absorption, to people that cause anxiety and stuff like that. And so I could take these amphetamines, and this is cocaine on slow release, okay? In prescription, that's what's up. Talking about your Adderalls, your Concerta, your Ritalins, and so on. And I could do this to heal